رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وصلى الله على حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الملأ الأعلى. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. As a conclusion for these 10 nights of Muharram that we await every year with the fire in our hearts, that we may shed a tear for Abu Abdullah, that we may be guided by Abu Abdullah, that we may be able to re-establish our covenant with Abu Abdullah. We wait the whole year, but whenever we enter this month, we feel like it finishes too fast, that we did not have an opportunity to grasp all that we wanted to grasp, or to learn all that which we wanted to learn, or to connect as much as we would have liked to connect. Now, in this understanding, as we are leaving the 10 days, know very well that the tragedy on a day like today, or on a night like tonight, for Abu Abdullah al-Hussain, for an understanding or a depth, his taklif was finished, and all of a sudden the taklif of Sayyidah Zainab begins. The trial or tribulation for Abu Abdullah finishes, but the trial and tribulation of Zainab starts on a night much like this night. But with that understanding, that we want to be of those, much like Sayyidah Zainab, that preached the religion, that lived the religion, that was a flag that guided people towards the truth. The topic tonight will be revolving around how best, through the words of Abu Abdullah, are we able to first and foremost direct ourselves to be under the banner of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, and also to guide others towards the banner of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. In the understanding of the analysis of the words of Imam Hussain, where he comes forward and he says very clearly, when forced to give allegiance to Yazid, he says the famous words, فَمِثْلِي لَا يُبَايَعْ مِثْلَهُ. A personality like myself, or a person like me, will never pledge allegiance to a person like him. Now that understanding will be the main core verse or wording from Imam Hussain that we're going to analyze tonight. The first question we want to bring forward is, where was this statement first said, and what was the event that occurred in order for Imam Hussain to have such a statement? Number two, when we look at Ahlulbayt generally and Hussein specifically, what gestures do we come across to begin to understand the significance of Ahlulbayt? Number 3, which Quranic verse did Imam Hussain state in this event that occurred, and why did he utilize that particular verse when answering someone's question? What can we learn from it? Why was it the choice that he had there and then? What does it teach us to be those that carry the flag of Aba Abdullah to the next generation, until a generation would come that will be under the banner? It's number 3. Number 4, when we look into our lives, we find, as we stated a few days ago, when we're discussing the lecture about Iblis, we spoke about how, as followers of Ahlulbayt, that Iblis says, لَأَقْعُدَنَّ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ, that I will sit upon the correct path and try to deviate people away. Now, when analyzing this, we understand that as followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah says, إِسْتَعِدُّوا لِلْبَلَاءِ, prepare for calamities. When there are calamities in our life, are all the calamities the same? The fitan within our life, the bala within our life, are they all categorized the same? Or are there different categories that fitna may come from and direct you towards? It's a very important question that we need to analyze tonight. And finally, in the words of Imam Hussain, when we take the final step, مثلي لا يبايع مثله, when we look at the journey of Aba Abdullah, what are the 2 categories that he puts forward that we're going to analyze in a deeper way, that he sets for each and every one of us that want to attain a position in the army of Aba Abdullah's grandchild, the one that will avenge him? What are the 2 characteristics that if I do not have now, that I can work towards to instill it within myself firstly, my children, my loved ones, and in the understanding for the next generation, inshallah. So please assist me in delving into this topic of the utmost importance by blessing the majlis and illuminating our hearts and minds with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. Allahumma salli ala. In the end of the month of Rajab, at the end of the month of Rajab, 60 AH, within Medina, there are a messenger that arrives towards the governor within Medina and gives him the letter sent by Sham. Sham sends a letter towards Medina. Within this letter has many details. Amongst the first in these details within this letter is announcing the death of Muawiyah. Once announcing the death of Muawiyah, it is said within it that you need to ensure that you have the bay'ah of the utmost importance from Hussein, son of Ali. Because if he does give us a bay'ah, everything's fine. But if he does not give us a bay'ah, we have a massive problem on our hands. So they will say, what occurs there and then? They sent in the midst of the night. Remember, this occurrence isn't during the daytime. Oftentimes we see that they try to do things behind closed doors. So they sent to bring Imam Hussain in the midst of the night towards the palace in Medina. Ibn Uqba says to him that Muawiyah has now passed away and Yazid wants you to give your allegiance to him. So Imam Hussain, before entering, the tradition says he brought forward 30 of his family members at the forefront of them is Abu Fadl al-Abbas and Ali al-Akbar. And he says to them, stay outside the palace. If you hear my voice all of a sudden is raised, know very well you have permission to enter the palace however you see fit. So Imam Hussain enters inside. They tell him Muawiyah has passed away. Muawiyah has passed away. Now Yazid wants your bay'ah. Midst of the night. So Imam Hussain looks at them, and in the tradition it says that he says to them, hold on, it's the middle of the night. A bay'ah should never be in private. A bay'ah, to pledge allegiance from a personality as grand as Imam Hussain, needs to be in the public eye, so people know where his allegiance lies. So Imam Hussain tells them it needs to be in the daytime. When you call the people for allegiance, then call me as well. In our understanding, when Imam Hussain says this, it's as if he says, bring them all tomorrow. When you call me, I'll tell you what I think of Yazid in front of the masses. So they need to know who is on the correct path and who's on the incorrect, satanic path that is led people astray. So he says this. Marwan ibn Hakam is there. Marwan ibn Hakam has a history with Ahlulbayt. Long history of hatred towards Ahlulbayt, which I don't even have time to delve into. The different points in history that he's shown animosity towards Ahlulbayt. Marwan ibn Hakam is there. He says to the governor of Medina, he says, Walid, if you do not take your allegiance now, you'll not be able to take his allegiance tomorrow in front of the masses. Either he gives you the allegiance now, or you take his head. At that moment, Imam Hussein's voice is raised when he's scolding Marwan ibn al-Hakam. As he scolds him, in a very nice way, the scolding, he says to him, amongst the things, he says, Anta rajisun. Rajis, najis can be intertwined. You are impure. And I am from the family that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has purified. The event that occurs is at that moment, he says, نحن أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة بنا بدأ الله وبنا ختم. We are the household of prophecy. We are the household where the angels ascend. We are the households that have started Islam, and we are the one that will be at the end of it. With Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Allahumma. And he says, وَيَزِيدُ الْفَاسِقِ شَارِبَ الْخَمْرِ قَاتِلُ النَّفْسِ الْمُحَرَّمَةِ. Then he says the famous lines, مِثْلِ لَا يُبَايَعْ. What do we say? Mithla. Now, the question here is very, very important. Imam al-Hussain lays a foundation for each and every one of us, you and I. Why? Because had he specified, he says, Hussein will never give allegiance to Yazid, is very different than saying a person like me will never give their allegiance to a person like him. How is it different? Because it doesn't cocoon it to him and Yazid. This fight is greater than just Hussein and a Yazid. This war has been raging from the start till the end of time. Just in the small category around Rasulullah, Imam Hussain. You could say a person like the Prophet would never give his allegiance towards a person like Abu Sufyan. Same truth and falsehood. For every Prophet, or for every, let's say, Abu Sufyan, there's a Prophet of Allah. For every Muawiyah, there's going to be a Ali. For every Yazid, there will be a Hussein. And we can go down that line. All the way for the Sufyan. For every tyrannical leader, for every Dajjal, for every oppressor, there will be someone fighting
for truth. In our time, how many Dajjals do we have? You can name names from the pulpits. How many Dajjals that are the heads of states, heads of the most powerful militarily countries in the world? But for every tyrant that is there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us scholars that fight in the path and are sacrificing themselves. مِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. Those that have passed away on this righteous path, and of them that await how they will be fighting against falsehood. So the context is there. The context is for you and I. For me to become a Hussain. So philosophers, they come forward and they say everyone has a seed of potentiality within yourself. You have a potential within yourself to either, look at this delicate point, to either become a Hussaini or become a Yazidi. So it's very delicate in the sense that, you might think to yourself, he's not talking about me because I have the love of the 313. No. Maybe there's people that prayed in Karbala. Shimr knew who the Imam was. Shimr, the most wretched, when he brings
towards Yazid, you know what he says? Look at the wordings. He says, "Imla rikabi fiddatan aw dhahaba inni qataltu sayyidan muhajjaba qatalta khayran nas umman wa aba." He says, "Bring me gold or silver to fill all that which I can carry." Rikabi fiddatan aw dhahaba. Inni qataltu sayyidan muhajjaba qataltu khayran nas umman wa aba. He says, I have killed a person that does not have, or no one on earth or this world has a greater mother and father than him. Who's these words for? Who said these words? Shimr. Shimr knew the Imam of his time. But what led Shimr to have such an atrocious act? How can we avoid going in the same path? Because he was Muslim, he prayed, he fasted. So what's the difference? This seed within myself that I irrigate, whether to become a Hussaini or a Yazidi, is very important, because every single action that I do puts me on a different path. I may think a sin is small, but every time you choose wrong, you put one step in the wrong direction. You take another step. Our life, let's say, if you're 30 years of age, your book's been open for an average of how many days, let's say? Let's say 6,000 to 10,000 days. If we've sinned once we've sinned. A day, that's at least 10,000 steps have gone in the wrong direction, isn't it? Correct? 10,000 steps towards becoming a Yazidi. It starts with one thing. Look, this is fine, this is fine. How do I become a Hussaini? That's what I need to focus on. It's not easy when he says, if you stay away from sin and enjoy goodness, just basically listen to us and follow our footsteps. It's not easy. To become a Hussaini, I need to make the right choice in every moment in my life. You think it's small. I'll smile at my parents. In your head, it's something small. On the scales, it could be something magnanimous. It could build something within you, but you're taking one step. You could possibly be taking one leap towards becoming a Hussaini. And on the flip side, and sometimes I give you an example to better understand the significance of something that you think is small. Listening to music. One of those interesting things that usually the youth ask. But Sayyid, they're not saying anything bad. But Sayyid, everyone listens. But Sayyid, it's on the reels, on the TikToks, or the shorts. It's background music. I go to, it's nothing, Sayyid. I'll give you this tradition just to show you the delicacies that are associated with something that you may think is small. It says, listening to music irrigates hypocrisy within a person the same way water irrigates a plant. Music irrigates what? Hypocrisy within a person, like water irrigates a plant. When I say hypocrisy, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, okay. When we look at Amir al-Mu'mineen, we're all calling ourselves Shia of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Oh Ali, no one hates you except the son of adultery or a what? A hypocrite. So now that I'm listening to music, if I put one and one together, that it might irrigate hypocrisy within me, one day I might question Amir al-Mu'mineen. Like, no way, Habibi, this is the traditions that's here. One day you're going to be like, listening to a tradition and you're like, that's a bit much. We have many that once upon a time, Ya Ali Madad, and as they grow older whilst listening to music, you tell them some of the fada'i, they're like, yeah, it's a bit much. Where did it start from? Possibility could have been many things. Eating haram, or possibly listening to music and thinking it's absolutely fine. Do you know many of those that were in the army that fought Imam Hussain, once upon a time fought alongside Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib? Alongside him. So what happened? Right now, you and I, we're in the majalis of Aba Abdullah. We pray to Allah that our actions align with our tears. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. What wording can I learn from Imam al-Hussein to apply within my life? What is the choice that he's had? Because you know, the gestures that we have from Rasulullah are absolutely phenomenal. We mentioned one of the gestures a few days ago about al-Mubahala, or the event of Mubahala. I'll give you another one. This one, I guarantee you will not leave your mind. Rasulullah, everything he does, you have to pay attention to. So when you're reading a tradition and he says he used this finger to describe this, or he looked this way in a happy or a sad manner, whom he put in front, how he knocked the door, needs to be analyzed. Now, when he says the following tradition, Ana وَكَافِلُ الْيَتِيمِ كَهَاتَانْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. The tradition says he puts these two fingers together. He says, myself and the one that sponsors an orphan. كَافِلُ الْيَتِيمِ كَهَاتَانْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. And the tradition says he uses these fingers. And they say, what's the difference? They say that possibly, he says, like these two in heaven, that you could be neighbors in heaven. And that's why we say the person that sponsors an orphan is the neighbor of Rasulullah. They say, why? Because these two fingers are next to each other. They're each other's neighbors. But you see, one's at a different position, one's higher, one's lower. So you have a detailed understanding of what metaphorically this could mean. But now let's look at Hadith al-Thaqalayn. Rasulullah says, if you do not want to go astray, hold on to two weighty things. مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِ لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِي. What are these two things? He says, Kitabullah wa itrati. My book and my family. Kitabullah, the book of Allah, and my family, the Ahlulbayt. But how does he gesture it? Exact finger, opposite sides. Meaning what? The Quran and Ahlulbayt are what? The same, equal. Two sides of the same coin. So now I begin to analyze, what did Imam Hussain say? This moment that Imam al-Hussain has specified, مِثْلِي لَا يُبَايَعْ مِثْلَهُ. Do you know what he says a few lines before that? Which Quranic verse he brings forward? When he is replying towards Marwan ibn al-Hakam, what does he say? He says to him, Marwan, إِنَّكَ رَجِسٌ. You are najis, he says. Then, اذهب عني. Move away from me. You are najis and I and purified, did you not know about the verse that was revealed about us? إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Why does he say that? Remember, the context is what? That a personality like Yazid wants bay'ah. Imam Hussain reminds him of the purity of Ahlulbayt, the infallibility of Ahlulbayt. Now purity, the opposite of it is what? As he said, najis, let's say, right? Impurity. So he says, move away from me because I am pure. On the first level, it's showing to you, and this is the words from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, all those that deny the position of the rightfully chosen Khalifa by Allah are what? Rijis, najis. He says, move away from me. And that's why all those Muslim, not Muslim, atheist, more atheist, ma'arif shunu. Habibi, if you know the position of Ahlul Bayt and deny it, you are Rijis. Very clear cut within the Holy Quran and alluded to by Imam Hussain. Now, that's why we have a Nasibi is najis. Now Imam Hussain says this to show us, okay, now there are many people now in the world that are not infallible. There are those that are trying their utmost to attain the highest levels, besides the level that Allah bestows, because there's divinely guarded infallibility, such as the prophets have, such as the imams have, and there is a rank that we come and call within our theology self-attained infallibility. So amongst those at the highest level of self-attained infallibility, Sayyidah Zainab, Aba Fadl al-Abbas, Ali al-Akbar. We can classify all those at a lower degree of our scholars at the highest self-attained infallibility, to protect and preserve themselves in order for them to not be clouded in any one of their judgments and to continuously purify themselves, and that's why we follow them. Now, in the world that we live in, why does Imam Hussain say and remind us about his purity? And to say that a person like me that is pure will never submit to someone like Yazid, which is impure, is to show each and every one of us, if I want to be a Hussaini and I'm trying to purify myself, that I do not have hands in the hands of those that are attacking me, that are attacking the religion, that are oppressing. Doesn't matter if they're oppressing a Muslim, non-Muslim. كن للمظلوم عونا وللظالم خصما. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, be an enemy to the oppressor and an aid to the oppressed. Does he say it has to be Muslim, Shia, Ithna Ashari that's oppressed? Does it have to be a Muslim that's oppressed? Does it have to be a human? كل المظلوم عونا. Wherever you see oppression, aid them. Now, when this whole incident of boycotting comes past, and you begin to analyze, I can have a hand in opposing the oppressors. There are some people that come and put them themselves up, but say it convenience. But it's easier. There's no other way that I have to. You put it between you and Imam Hussain. Don't come to me and ask. Allah sees, Allah knows what's in your hearts, but the rest is up to you. This is just one example of many. Where we put our money, where we invest in, where we choose to live. These are all things that we need to ask ourselves. If we want to be a Hussaini, am I able? Or is something affecting me? Can I control myself? Or do I just give up and say, you know what? Convenience. There's no other way. And I have this concept of yes that we spoke about. Which one is it? Because the trials come from different angles. For us, we think that a trial comes from one perspective. When we look at bala or fitan, we think, no, it's just one direction. No, Habibi, there's three different ways Allah can put fitan within our lives. The Quran clarifies there's 3 different ways or directions a fitna can come into my life, and I need to be prepared for each and every one of them. Just to start off, I know we had this discussion with a few of the brothers. Fitna, trial and tribulation, is used in many, many different ayat within the Holy Quran. And so you and I, we understand fitna as what? Trial and tribulation, correct? Correct? Fitna in the Arabic language, look at the context it comes from. From understanding the word, we'll understand what Allah is trying to teach us. Fitna comes from an action which is fatantul fiddata wadhahab. You bring a rock from the mountains, and this rock you know has gold within it. Or you may be unsure if it has gold, silver, hajar kareem within it. So how do you know what's within that element that you've brought forward? You have to put it through immense heat and pressure to remove all the impurities, leaving only that which is of value. Okay? You following? So when you say fitna, fatantul dhahaba wal fidda, it means that I need to put something under immense pressure and heat in order for me to remove all the impurities, to reveal what's inside. Now take that context into that which is good and bad. If a person's soul is good, Allah puts him in a test, or puts her in a test, to see how they perform in that outcome. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَنْ يُتْرَكُوا أَنْ يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do the people think, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَنْ يَقُولُوا, that they say we are mu'mins now, we have iman. أَنْ يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. How can you say I have iman when you haven't gone through trials and tribulations? You want to have iman, see how you're going to react to different trials and tribulations. And that's why the first direction that fitna comes into your life is from Allah. To show yourself, Allah knows what's in us. Sometimes Allah is trying to show us what our innermost thoughts are. That's why Amir Mu'min says, you want to know who you are? When you're by yourself, what thoughts come to your mind, that's who you are. Know very well. The first type of fitna from Allah is from Allah, and it's to test you and to show you who you really are. In moments of trials and tribulations, in a death, in a sickness. Allah says it very clearly, نَقْصٌ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَالْأَنفُسِ. All of these things, Allah tests you in. How do you react? Do you have sabr, like we spoke about? Or do you have yes? Or jaza? You see how it's all coming together, inshallah. Which one do you go towards? First is Allah to test you, to reveal to yourself. The second is from shaitan. Oh, the shaitan able to put fitna into our life? Of course he can. That's his whole mission, is to whisper thoughts within our minds, to create doubts within our life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya bani Adam, la yaftinannakum ash-shaytan. Do not allow shaitan to put fitna within your life. Because what's the fitna of shaitan? What did we say a few nights ago? لَأَغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. So Allah has to test you. Shaitan is there to deviate you from the correct path. And the final one is from humans. The humans is fitted is to corrupt you. Remember what we said about shaitan using people to change the creation, which is the religion of Allah. At the end of the day, it's the humans that are the ones that are changing the religion. So in order for corruption to spread within the land. And that's why we begin to see how religion has changed. Rasulullah says, hold on to two weighty things. Imam Sajjad has a very interesting statement. Imam Sajjad said this. He says, my grandfather Rasulullah awsa bina khayra. So he says to everyone in his wasiyah, that I do not want anything except al-mawaddata fil qurba. That's all I want for you as a payment for everything that I brought you from the pits of hellfire and given you opportunity to enter heaven. My reward, I don't want anything monetary. My reward is actually going to help you by holding on towards my family. Al-mawaddata fil qurba. Show them love, mercy, compassion. Imam Sajjad said, had Allah told Rasulullah to harm the Ahlulbayt rather than help them and love them and care for them. Imam Sajjad said, had the Prophet said harm them, hurt them, attack them, they would not have done anything more to us than they already have done. That's the ummah that they lived in. لو أوصى رسول الله بنا شر لما زاد على ما فعلوا. They would not have done anything extra. So after what? Maximum 3 months after he passes away. It says mawaddata fil qurba, look what he did to Fatima. Look what happened to Fatima Zahra. 3 months. He hasn't been in the ground for 3 months. The lady that he used to kiss between her eyes would get up whenever she would enter a room, would knock the door in his own house before entering to seek permission. That same door. Ali in sujood, Hassan with poison, Hussain in Karbala massacred. Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussain, look what they did to him. Al-mawaddata fil qurba. Trials. Allah or shaitan or from the humans, we need to understand where each is coming from and how to deal with each one of them, because we begin to analyze, is the outcome corruption? It was a human. Is the outcome going to be a deviation from my religion? This is from shaitan. Is the outcome needing for me to be patient? It's from Allah to test myself. So now you begin to see and analyze with a different eye which calamity is befalling me and how to approach it. So what are these two final characteristics that we want to touch on, that we need to understand? Imam Hussain says to the companions then, which Imam Mahdi will say to his companions that will come. He says, if you possess these two qualities, then you are ready. Yet if you do not possess these two qualities, ensure that you possess them in order for you to join the caravan. What are these qualities? من كان باذلا فينا مهجته. Whomever is prepared to sacrifice themselves for us. This one has a very detailed discussion. Very detailed discussion. You know, if I say, as an anecdote, we're all sitting here mourning about Abdullah. If Aba Abdullah would come right now, he'd enter, and he'd say to each and every one of us, I don't promise you heaven, I don't promise you reward, I don't promise you anything, but I want you to give up all your wealth and give it to my cause. Remember, there's no reward, no place in heaven, there's no promise. I guarantee you, seeing the Imam, you would be like, without a doubt, he's everything that I have, right? Everything and myself is sacrificed for you. Then if we change the equation, if Imam Mahdi says, now I want you, I want your time, I want your expertise, I want your devotion, I want your soul to be linked to me, and we find it hard to part ways, for example, with our time, with our expertise, with a little bit of wealth in the right cause. We need to revisit, like, how much are we actually sacrificing? And it's not the sacrifice, you know, Habil and Qabil, the sons of Adam. He says, from your livestock, offer a sacrifice. Based on it, you'll be chosen. So Habil and Qabil bring forth livestock and they sacrifice it, correct? Now what's the difference between Habil and Qabil? Both of them were the sons of a prophet, right? Habil looks at his livestock and he says, I want to look at the best thing that I have, and that is what I'll sacrifice. Qabil had to look at his livestock. He says, which one's sick? You know, it's going to die, it's not going to be much use to me, doesn't have any meat on its bones. Let me sacrifice it. For us, how much can I give to the Imam? What is my capability? You know, you often think the Imam is just wants soldiers. He wants people that their heart is in the right place. When Imam establishes his governance, you know, he's going to need people in every single expertise in every field to aid him, correct? Don't think he's just after soldiers. He needs people of academia. He needs people of expertise. He needs people that above all else are prepared to be directed by the Imam in any way he sees fit, correct? Am I ready to sacrifice? Or am I not? Imam Hussain, Safinatun Najat. What did we say in the first night? That he himself goes towards people to bring them in. When you hear something, when you see within your phone something to do with Abu Abdullah, you hear a story, you hear an incident, something that moves you, that is an opportunity for you to connect, an opportunity for you to return, an opportunity to re-establish the covenant. Imam Hussain, as he left Mecca towards Karbala, many stations he stopped at, doesn't he? It's a journey. It's not like catching a 737 and arriving in Heathrow. You're stopping, putting the tents down, camping for the night, refueling, going again and again and again. In these places that he stopped, each one has a lesson for us. One of them, Imam al-Hussein goes to one of the tents of a personality that fought alongside Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, fought alongside him, and then left and fought against him. So Imam Hussain is not coming to a Shia, is he? He's coming to a person that fought against them. This personality, his name is Ubaidullah ibn al-Hurr al-Ju'fi, comes inside the tent. He says to him, ABC, we are headed in this direction. Now look at the reply. He says to him, Ya ibn Rasulillah, I know without a shadow of doubt that following in your footsteps is my ultimate salvation. Ultimate salvation is following your footsteps. He says, but I love this life or this world much too much that I'll sacrifice myself. But I know, attaining martyrdom with you, O Abu Abdullah, is salvation. But I love this world too much. So take my sword, never have I struck anyone except that I have finished them. And look at my horse, take it with you, because never have I ran after someone, did I not catch them, or have I run away from someone and they caught me. As if Imam Hussain is going to run away from him. So he says, take the sword and take the horse. Imam, I say, just put us into perspective. Sometimes someone asks us, can you volunteer your time? Can you volunteer some of your expertise in the matter? Can you give some of your expertise to the next generation for Abu Abdullah? Can you help for Abu Abdullah? You know, he's whatever I can give, that should be enough. Imam al-Hussain says to Ubaidullah ibn al-Hurr, he says, I bring you the salvation from this world, and this is your reply to me. He says, I'm in no need of your horse or your sword. I'm in no need. But your soul is in need of heaven. He says, if you're not going to join us, make sure then when you hear my cry in Karbala, you are nowhere close to hear it. Because if you hear it and you do not come to our aid, then Allah will place you face first in hellfire. What we need to do, my dear brothers, my dear sisters, in the conclusion of these 10 nights, is to revisit every single limb, every single sense within our bodies, and perfect it. We want to be of the companions. It's a hard road, it's not an easy one. There's struggle. We need to, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says, feel the pain of obedience like we felt the pleasure of disobedience. I end with a story that is very famous amongst the scholars. They say one day a personality wanted to meet the Imam of their time. You and I both want to meet the Imam of our time. So he comes to one of these spiritual scholars and he says, I would love to meet the Imam of my time. So the Imam says to him, no problem. So the man says to him, you want to meet the Imam? No problem. There is ways in which you can pray sincerely in order for you. Allah, if He blesses you, you may be able to meet the Imam. So he goes, prays, leaves everything behind. He used to sew garments for the scholars within Iran. So he goes, I left my work, left everything, built a mihrab. Mihrab is a place of prayer. Coming from the root word of harb, mihrab. Harb meaning a war between you and your nafs, you and your shaitan. That's the place where you have that battle, because the greatest battle is within yourself, a jihad al-akbar. So he builds a mihrab for himself and he's worshipping, in the understanding that one day he wants to meet the Imam of his time, correct? So he's worshipping and worshipping and worshipping. He only leaves to go to the markets, get the necessities, or to release his bowels. And then he'll come back and worship, that's it. So he narrates, says, one day I went to the markets. So the safari in places, so if you've been to Iran or Iraq, when you go towards the markets, if for example this market is for gold, every single shop sells gold. You go towards a market that has dahina, every single shop next to each other has dahina. It's a particular Iraqi sweet. That's how it is in the markets. Amongst these markets would sell pots and pans. The whole street, pots and pans, next to each other. So he says, as I'm walking, something caught my eye. What caught your eye? He says, I saw a lady going in one shop with a pot, leaving, going to the next one, leaving, going to the next one. So he says, that caught my attention. So I came closer. She entered one of these stores as I came closer to listen. So she says to the man, oh man, I'd like to sell my pot. And he says, how much do you want for it? And she says, I'm after 7, let's say tuman, right? Or 7 coins, let's say, for argument's sake. 7 coins I need. I'm in need of this pot. I need the pot, but I need to sell it in order for me to get my medicine. So the man says, I'm happy to offer you that if the value is where it is. She goes, why haven't you sold it before? She says to him, everyone offered me 5 coins and that's it. I need 7 for my medicine. If you can give me 7, he says, I'm happy to, as long as I know the value is in the pot. So he looks at it, looks at the material, weighs the pot. He comes back to the lady, he says, lady, I'm happy to buy the pot off you, but it's not 7. She says, and how much is it? How much can you offer me? She says, I can offer you 21 coins. So, you're joking with me. Every single other shop in this whole street that I've gone to has said to me that I'm not going to give you more than 5 coins, and you're offering me 21. Because, well, that's its value. If the rest of those are thieves, I'm not going to want to be a thief. This is the value of the pot. If you'd like it, I'm happy to give you the money for what it's worth. If you're not happy, man, you can take your pot somewhere else. So the lady's thinking to herself, hopefully he doesn't change his mind. Yes, I'll sell it to you, no problem. So she gives him the pot, he gives her the money, and the lady goes her own way. Who's watching? The person that wanted to meet the Imam, correct? So he comes to this man that's just bought the pot in his shop. And he, look at the wording, he says, what religion is this? That the lady wanted 7. If you think that the pot is worth 21, and you want to sell it for 22 to get your 1 coin as profit, I said, give her the 7, that's all she wanted. Give her the 7, the rest offered her 5, and then happy days, you've made a margin and a massive profit. Look at the man. He looks at him. The personality's name is Rajab Ali al-Khayyat, if you want to look up his story. He looks at him. He says, with that diseased heart, you want to meet the Imam of your time? We are put in positions where we have an opportunity to take advantage of people at their lowest. Or we have an opportunity to lift them from where they are. To do the right thing versus the wrong thing. The man says to himself, this person obviously is in a position where he is obviously close. Let me keep close to him to learn as much as I can from him. So he stays around him. He says, one day, as I'm always coming back and forth from the shop of this man, he says, a man entered, وَأَنَا فَقَدْتُ قِوَاي, meaning, he says, I was in a position where I was sitting down, but a man entered into the back room to speak to the shopkeeper. I lost all strength in my limbs. So I couldn't get up, couldn't move my hands, couldn't call out, nothing. I just felt helpless at that time. Until the man came and then he left. When the man left into a position where I could not see him any longer, then all of a sudden I felt my strength come back to me. The shopkeeper comes out from inside and he says to him, Rajab Ali. He says, who is that? He goes, that's the man that you wanted. He says, then tell me, let me go and see him, speak to him. He says, no. You don't have the opportunity yet. But he actually came for you. He says, why? He says he wants to send a message. What's the message? This is the message. He says, tell my followers that you do not need to go looking to see me. Be how we want you to be, we will come and visit you. Who says this? Man Sama. And there were many in Karbala that fits into the category of being of the companions of Abu Abdullah. All of them on the 10th of Muharram. And the night before, praying, fasting, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing dhikr, being around the Imam of their time. But on the 10th of Muharram, all those that were under the banner of Abu Abdullah were laying on the floor in Karbala. I take you to a moment in Karbala. I want you to imagine this, my brothers, my sisters. It's the last night, the last opportunity for you to shed a tear for Abu Abdullah, a tear for the tragedy that befalls the family of Rasulullah. He looks around after the moment where his back becomes broken. He's going towards the tents. He sees there's no one left to aid him, no one there to support him. All those that pledged their allegiance to him are now laying on the plains of Karbala. He then goes within the tents. He begins to see the ladies crying from thirst, the children crying from thirst. But there was one person that comes towards Imam Hussain by the name of Zainab, saying, "Oh Abu Abdullah, there is one person within the tents that his mother is embarrassed to tell you that she does not have any more milk within her bosom. She has not been able to feed this 6-month-old of yours for some time now, O Aba Abdullah. Is there any way that you can take him to see if the enemies would give him and quench his thirst, even a drop of water? And she brings him the 6-month-old son of Imam Hussain. Ali al-Asghar, I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine a 6-month-old that you've held in your hands. I want you to think about, when a 6-month-old is just fed, how happy the face is, how red the cheeks are, how vibrant the eyes are. Now I want you to imagine a 6-month-old that their eyes have sunken into their sockets, that their lips have been dry and broken from the thirst of Karbala. I want you to imagine not a delicate soft body, but a body that's been harmed by the sun of Karbala, that has not drank any water. I want you to imagine that. Now I want you to imagine the heart of Aba Abdullah looking at this 6-month-old baby of his. ساعد الله قلبك يا أبا عبد الله. May Allah not let anyone see that which Imam Hussain saw on the 10th of Muharram. Aba Abdullah, they would say, when he would enter the battlefield or enter Karbala, one of 3 ways. Either he would enter on a camel. They would know that Imam Hussain was about to say a sermon or preach. Or he would enter on a horse, meaning he was prepared for warfare. But the way in which he entered Karbala, this moment, was in his bare feet. My brothers, my sisters, Aba Abdullah, the enemies would see him entering Karbala slowly. But they said we saw Aba Abdullah having something under his garments as he approached us, almost to say that I'm protecting my 6-month-old from the heat of Karbala. So they said all of a sudden he removes his garments to reveal a young child. We begin to see this young child. Imam Hussain says very famously, if there is a sin that the elders of us have committed, what sin has this 6-month-old done? That you deny him water. He says, if you're afraid that I am going to drink water, if you've given me access, then take him. They would say Hussain did something that no one expects. He places Ali al-Asghar onto the sands in Karbala, saying that if you're afraid I'm going to drink, come and take him. You come and take my Asghar. Oh, you enemies that have killed my family, you come and take Asghar. Feed him, give him a drop of water so you may quench his thirst. You'll see the army all of a sudden split. Half of the army would say, then he's only a few months old. What sin has he done? Why do you not quench his thirst? Why do you not help him? Why do you not give him water? He's only a child. The other half, what would they say? لا تبقوا من أهل بيت من باقية. Do not let anyone from this family stay alive. Make sure you kill them, the eldest or the youngest of them. Umar ibn Sa'ad looks at Harmala. He says, Harmala, please ensure that you have stopped the crowd fighting amongst each other in this moment. He says, what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to strike Aba Abdullah. You know when Harmala was caught, they said to Harmala, Harmala, what did you do in Karbala? He says, once he's captured, I shot 7 arrows. 4 of those arrows missed. 3 of them struck my intended targets and they hurt Aba Abdullah. Which were the 3? He says the first of the 3 arrows struck the eye of Abbas. And he could not remove it from his eye, falling face first on Karbala. The second arrow is the one which hurts Abu Abdullah, the one which pieces his heart, that every time Hussein tries to remove the arrow, he could not. He had to push it further inside his chest and remove the arrow from his back. He says, what about the third arrow? He says, the third arrow was the painful one. He says, what type of arrow was it? Was it a normal arrow that you would strike someone? He would say, no, I prepared a 3-pointed arrow that we use to kill the camels. I loaded the arrow. Where did it hit? He says, I struck the 6-month-old baby of Hussein. I want you to imagine Hussein in the moment. When he raises, they would say, Abdullah Ali Asghar, towards the skies, towards the heaven, so high that they would say in traditions, they would see the armpits of Abu Abdullah when he raised this child. Now I want you to imagine that when this arrow was inside the sky coming towards Ali al-Asghar, the moment when a child looks at your eye and he's feeling pain, I want you to imagine now Ali al-Asghar, the moment the pain starts, the moment the arrow strikes his neck, in that moment it's as if Ali al-Asghar would say to his father, who else is looking into his eye, Father Hussein, I feel pain. I do not know where the pain is coming from. Father Hussein, help me. Remove this pain from me, Abu Abdullah. Imagine when this arrow struck the neck of Asghar, that it also pierced the arm of Abu Abdullah. That moment the traditions would say the 6-month-old, he would be doing what his hands and feet would be flapping in the air like a dove, not knowing what to do, how to react to this pain. Imagine Abu Abdullah seeing this. He takes the blood and throws it towards the sky, saying to Allah, oh Allah, take until you are sufficed. خُذْ حَتَّى تَرْضَى. I want you now to see in the final moments of Ali al-Asghar as he's flapping his hands like wings. The final thing he does is bring his hands and hug the neck of Hussein. It's as if he embraces Abu Abdullah, saying, this is the final moments of my father. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. That moment, I want you to imagine Hussein. He cannot stay there. He's thinking, do I bury the 6-month-old here so the ladies in the tents do not see him? Do I return him back towards the tents? They would say Hussein puts him back under his garments and he's pacing up and down in Karbala, not knowing what to do. Pacing for many, many moments in Karbala. Each moment was in its own hour in Karbala, in calamity. He finally makes the decision to return back towards the tents. When he's returning outside again, he's going back and forth. How do I tell Rabab? How do I tell Zainab? How do I tell Sukaina what happened towards Asghar? Who meets Abu Abdullah? It wasn't Zainab that was the first person. They would say that a young Sukaina would come towards Abu Abdullah. Do you know what she says? If your heart is not broken right now, my brothers and sisters, this line will break you. Sukaina comes to Hussein, she says, Father Abu Abdullah, I do not hear Asghar crying. Surely they have given him water.